So the status quo, how is, to your point that you guys are talking about, how does that help us or how does that hinder us? And for those folks that are in the audience that are at different points of the innovation process, how do they overcome some of the just traditional status quo that we have? And when and how do they identify that this is a status quo that's a good thing and that I should just leave that alone?
Just jump to the end user, right? Look at the end user and say, are there unmet needs? And you start there and you end there, because once you created a solution to an unmet need, it's the power of the consumer voice that will influence an organization. It's not going to be the R&D team. It won't be the manufacturing team. It'll be the sales guy who finds out from his customer, hey, these guys are talking about something that's really, really interesting to my customers, to the end users, or to the patients, or the pharmacist, or whoever. And so you really have to start with, have you satisfied an end user unmet need?
Actually, it's also identifying the end user. Let's use, this horrible COVID pandemic and the explosion of telehealth.
Yeah.
Where all the salesmen were making sales to the providers and the payers. And they weren't as interested in telehealth. But if you ask the patients, they said, I want to communicate, I want to, get this information as much as possible. But the providers and payers and, the sales are oriented to them. With the, COVID, of all the horrible things, the one thing that I think people started recognizing, we need to satisfy the patient for what their needs are and have them be able to access the system. And I think there's very few patients went, oh my gosh, this telehealth thing, isn't this great? As opposed to, where has it been? We've been asking for it, but not been able to get it. Which again, it's just being aware of that end user is ultimately the biggest important piece, because that's what you need to satisfy in innovation and in the business proposition for the innovation. Because if it's not going to be, you can build it, but if it's not going to be used, as I said, it's going to go to the zombie graveyard.